You might know that I'm a former examiner at the US Patent and Trademark Office who actually reviewed trademark applications from the inside. That was many years ago, but I learned so much, and some of those tips stay with me today. And in fact, I recently had a conversation with several other former examiners, and we were talking about some of these very tips that are useful on the outside, but that one learns on the inside. A huge tip is to know that you can contact the examiner if you have a question or you want to try to talk about something. So you can always look up the examiner's phone number or email. Another tip is to know about how files get assigned to the examiners. It's actually pretty much random, except for that when an examiner gets a new file, if there are other pending applications from the same owner applicant, they might be able to group those for consistency, have them reviewed by one examiner. It's useful to know also how examiners get reviewed and get performance bonuses. So that's sort of two separate things, but related. They're on a productivity program and they get points for certain types of actions taken to approve or an application or to issue an office action. And then they can get bonuses based sometimes on the exceeding the number of points that are expected, and also based on quality, based on a certain number or percentage of exceptionally good office actions. It's also, my fifth tip, to know that the examiners are on your side. It's their job to register a trademark unless there's a reason not to register it. So they're actually generally trying with the applicants to get something approved and registered unless there's no way they can approve it. And when it comes to the points, they actually get just as many points, if not more, for approving an application as they do for denying one. And approving one takes generally less time. So they're not out to get applicants. They're not getting some benefit from denying applications. The measurements are done quarterly based on the fiscal year. So you'll see at the end of each quarter that there's generally an influx in office actions and steps taken by the examiners because they're trying to meet or exceed their goals for the end of the quarter. And at the end of the fiscal year in September, you'll really see a boost those last couple of weeks as they try to close out the year. It's worth knowing that examiners get extensive training from the US Patent and Trademark Office. Many, many weeks and months worth of training. That's what made me into the trademark attorney I am, and that's what helped create, my knowledge and passion for trademarks. And to this day, they still have a fantastic training program. Did you know that examiners can work remotely? The vast majority of them, in fact, do work remotely all over the country. The management structure can be useful to know that examiners have supervisors and managing attorneys. And sometimes if there's an issue that can't be resolved with an examiner, you can go up the chain, so to speak, to talk about it with others. Examiners are also broken out into law offices or units. That's how they're organized under different sort of management trees. Back when I was an examiner, each of those offices had special classes of goods and services that they worked on. Today, they work on all goods and services. And so another tip is that examiners don't have any one particular subject matter expertise. They review all types of applications generally, but another tip is that certain times there could be a word or a phrase or a type of product or service that comes up for a period of time so frequently, and the USPTO, because it's something new, wants examination consistency, that there will sometimes be a small handful of examiners appointed to a special issue like that. Another tip from the inside is that sometimes time can actually be on the applicant's side. Usually we want things to go faster to get that approval and registration as quickly as possible, but sometimes a delay can actually clear the way better for approval. Also, sometimes pairing from an application or cutting from an application can help get approval. Along the same lines, another tip from the inside is that sometimes a request to divide can help get a big chunk or even a majority of an application approved while part of an application remains at issue. Did you know that examiners are generally available for a phone call to discuss these issues? I mentioned it's important that you can look up how to contact them at the outset. And so, yes, knowing that you can contact them and schedule a call, actually have a call with an examiner scheduled in a couple of days, can be sometimes a productive way to try to resolve something. Evidence is key. This is a huge tip. Evidence to support the applicant's position is the most powerful way to try to convince the examiner to change their mind. That's in my experience, both as an examiner and as a practitioner on the outside. Be careful of any calls that purport to be from the USPTO or an examiner, but are asking for filing fees over the phone. These are scams. The USPTO does not collect fees over the phone. They're even using the USPTO phone numbers to spoof those phone numbers. So be very mindful and careful of those scam calls. 20th tip from the inside is that examiners actually search the same database, same system that applicants do. But when it comes to searching, it's also important to know that in the TSDR file for any application, you can actually find the information about the search that was done by the examiner and how they built that search. You can actually learn a lot from it sometimes. Also, very, very important to know, and many people don't realize this, the USPTO, when they search for conflicts, does not search outside of the USPTO. They only search their database for conflicts. So they're not going to refuse an application based on a trademark that is being used but has never been filed at the USPTO. The TMEP is the resource that examiners use for their sort of rule book and guidebook. And wonderfully, it's equally available to us on the outside to look up and use and cite those rules and the cases therein. They're bound by the filing dates of applications, okay? So what that means is, and there's also a lot of people who may not realize this, that if somebody applies second for a trademark, but they were using it first, the USPTO's hands are tied. Their hands are tied. They only look at the order in which they were filed in terms of whether or not they're going to issue a refusal. So the parties may still have a way to address that situation, but they have to do it outside of the examination process of the USPTO. Finally, be patient. There's a lot of delays at the USPTO, but the delays are not the fault of the examiners. The examiners are doing all they can to go through as many applications as they can in a reasonable manner, in a way that gets their job done and benefits applicants. And the delays are not controlled by examiners. They're controlled by bigger things going on behind the scenes and the number of filings and other administrative things. They're not controlled by the examiners. I hope you found those tips from the inside from trademark examiners at the USPTO to be quite useful. If you want to see a lot more about tips related to the trademark application process, stay tuned for more videos.